U.S. bishops are applauding the Supreme Court's decision to protect religious liberty. The court sided yesterday with Trinity Lutheran Church of Columbia, Missouri, which had applied for a state grant but was denied. Baltimore Archbishop William Lori released a statement. It reads in part, "The Supreme Court rightly recognized that people of faith should not be discriminated against when it comes to government programs that should be made available to all." It is summer vacation for the justices until they return in October to hear cases, but one case that will not be heard at the Supreme Court is Hernandez versus Mesa. The justices sent it back to the lower court. And joining us now is Amy Howe, a reporter for SCOTUSblog. She has argued two cases at the Supreme Court. Welcome back to the program.
Thanks for having me.
It's a little complicated. Let's set it up. This was about a cross-border shooting. A 15-year-old was on Mexican soil. A border police guard shot him. And the case is about the lawsuit that the 15-year-old's family filed on behalf of him because he died, and a right under the Fourth Amendment to be protected against excessive deadly force. What I don't understand about this case is that how does the Fourth Amendment apply to a 15-year-old boy on Mexican soil?
Well, that was actually the question that the lower courts decided and that the justices agreed to decide, was whether the Fourth Amendment protected the teenager at all. And how do you figure that out?
And what is the Fourth Amendment?
The Fourth Amendment, what we think of it in terms of searches and seizures, but it also protects people from being the object of excessive deadly force. And so that's what the family was arguing in this case, that he had a Fourth Amendment right to be protected from excessive deadly force, that the Border Patrol agent violated
Okay, so it went all the way up to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court says no thank you, and it's going to go back down. Why?
So one of the questions, when the Supreme Court announced that it was going to review the case last year, it added an additional question for the two sides to address, and this is something the Supreme Court gets to do. And they said, before we get to the question of whether or not the Fourth Amendment was violated or how you figure that out, we need to figure out whether the Hernandez family, the teenager's family, can sue the Border Patrol agent at all. There's a 1971 case called Bivens versus 6 unknown federal agents that says, at least in some circumstances, you can sue federal agents alleging a violation of your Fourth Amendment right, and you can sue them for money damages.
So the very first thing they have to do is figure out whether or not they can sue. And so that's why they're not going to decide anything else.
They sent it back because they decided another case involving the Bivens issue last week, and they said, go figure this question out first.
All right. One thing everybody has been talking about is whether or not Justice Kennedy is going to retire. This seems to me to be this made-up media story. Is it?
It's a little bit. I think there's two things going on. The first is that I'm sure that some of the older justices, every 6 months or so, do think about, is this a good time?
Well, he's 80.
For me to step down. He's 80. He's going to be 81. And then once you sort of get this theory in your head, it becomes an echo chamber in the press corps. Ooh, Justice Kennedy held his clerk reunion last weekend.
I heard that, right.
Therefore, he must be planning to retire.
He moved it up from a year ago, right?
Exactly.
So there's nothing to it, really.
So it seems.
So it seems. All right. Thank you so much. Amy Howe, reporter for SCOTUSblog.
Thanks for having me.